So is meat healthy or not? Why does all the data and research on one side of the debate sound just as good as the data and research on the other side? Can we just pick a side and move on already? Maybe we need to focus on more important things like that white pants and Labor Day thing. I'd love some more clarification on that. But in this video, you're going to get to understand why we hear so much good and so much bad about eating meat. And you're even going to be able to figure out which one is best for you. Let's dig in.
T.C. Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now, a lot of the confusion on this topic actually comes from the research and the trials and the studies that are done on this topic, and we'll get into that in a second. But if you're buying meat at your local grocery store or the average restaurant or just about any fast food chain, you're buying junk meat that was mass produced. And when a farmer mass produces meat in this manner, they usually keep the animals in a small cage and they'll feed them pretty much the cheapest food that they can come up with so that they can make a profit. And keep in mind that Mr. Farmer has a competitor right down the road who's also trying to sell meat to this corporation at a lower price. And all the bean counters on Wall Street are just going to tell these corporations, hey, you got to buy the cheaper meat with no idea why that meat became cheaper or where the quality went. So when animals are raised in this mass producing manner, the result in a lot of the times is frequent illness and then animals dying before they reach a size or age that they can become profitable. So now the farmer's losing money, and Mr. Farmer's like, well, what am I going to do about that? Oh, well, I got an idea. I'm going to pump these animals full of drugs and medications and hormones and all these chemicals that'll help the animal get to a size that is profitable before the animal dies. So now the farmer can be more profitable. Now, if you pump cows and chickens full of drugs and antibiotics, they don't just poop it out at the end of the day. Those medications and drugs and hormones, all those things go into their tissues. And guess where their tissues go? Yeah, it goes right into your cheeseburger. So when we consume that, we're also consuming all of those drugs and antibiotics. That's why the antibiotic wonder drugs of 30 years ago are starting to work less and less. It's because we're all consistently taking in a very small dose of these drugs pretty much on a daily basis. And all these bad bugs in our system are working up a tolerance to these drugs, and they no longer are effective at wiping them out. So is meat bad? Well, if this is the meat that you're eating, then yeah, meat is bad. Another problem that we understand now is that overcooking meat can also turn those into proteins that can be problematic for a lot of people. So if you are eating meat, you want to try and cook it not so well done. Maybe a little more medium rare-ish can be a little more beneficial. Now, another problem is that it appears that more than half of the population doesn't have their digestion working optimally. We talk a lot about how it's important to be able to break your food down properly, and part of that breakdown process is for our stomach to make hydrochloric acid that helps us break down protein. The problem is a lot of people are not making enough hydrochloric acid, and the rest of the population is turning off their stomach acid on purpose by taking medications to do so. But there's a wide variety of issues that can cause a person not to be making enough stomach acid. They don't need to be taking a medication to not be able to digest their food properly. But when we eat meat, the food needs to be broken down so that the body can turn that into amino acids and use all those nutrients. If we can't break that protein down, it has to break down by process of rotting and fermenting. And that process can create a lot of chemicals and toxins in the body. So now, not only did we bring in this meat that was filled with all these chemicals and antibiotics and drugs and all these problematic diseased animal issues, now if we can't break it down, it becomes even more toxic. So to understand this confusion a little more, do this experiment. Take 2 trash cans and fill one with raw carrots and fill the other one with raw meat and just leave it out in the yard for about a week. Now go back and open up the lids and stick your head in both ones. Which one smells worse? Which one had more rotting and all these crazy chemicals and bugs and bad smells? It's the meat. So if you can't digest your food correctly, you're going to feel a lot better not digesting vegetables than you will not digesting meat. The meat can cause a lot more problems when it's not broken down properly. But this doesn't mean that meat is bad, but without digestion, that meat turns into something else. It's something else that you don't want in your body. So does this help explain why there's so much confusion about meat? You can see that eating the wrong type of meat, which happens to be the type of meat that most people eat, or having an inability to break down that meat can all be very problematic and can lead to a lot of health problems. So with all these studies and trials showing that meat can be very problematic for people, have you ever heard of a trial that was just run on using organic or grass-fed and pastured meat? Of course, we've never had that study. Have you ever seen a study that was used just on people who can properly break down and digest their food correctly? Of course you haven't. 90% of the people who have digestive issues don't even know that they are not digesting their food correctly. So these studies don't even exist. The truth is, most people need meat. Now, here's how it works. The reality is that all mammals that eat do so to gain nutrients and minerals that their body needs to function correctly. The problem is, we get those nutrients and minerals from the Earth's soil. The trick is that a human, you can't just pick up dirt and eat it because our body is not made to pull those nutrients and minerals out of that dirt. But if we eat the plant that consumed those nutrients and minerals from the dirt, so to speak, then we can translate that to something that our body can use. If we take that a step further and we eat the animal that ate the plant that got those nutrients from the soil, then it's even easier for our body to translate that into something that we can use. Does this mean that you have to eat meat? Not necessarily. You can get a lot of the nutrients that your body really needs by using the right supplements. I just don't want you to think that you can get everything you need by using a B12 shot. That's fiction and that's not really how it works. You can't get everything you need just from that. But what this does mean is that if you eat the right type of meat and your body has the ability to break it down correctly, then meat can be a very healthy part of your diet and you don't have to avoid it. As long as your digestion is working correctly, the only thing left to do is to buy good, organic, pastured, free-range meat and eggs that are hormone-free. To the person with good digestion, everything is food. To the person with bad digestion, nothing is food. So diet is what we eat, but nutrition is what the cells can actually see. So if you need to figure out if you're breaking down your food correctly, if you don't even know if your digestion is working correctly, kind of take a look at yourself and are you dealing with any digestive symptoms? Any at all, like burping or bloating or constipation, diarrhea, acid reflux, nausea, maybe food just kind of sits there in your stomach like a rock for hours. Any of those things going on are signs that you're not digesting your food correctly. So we have a totally free 4-week digestion course that's online that walks you through figuring out, am I having digestive malfunctions? And if I am, what steps do I need to take to correct those? We'll put a link to that totally free course in the description below. And also, if you are vegan, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. There may be good reasons that you're vegan and it may be better for that. So we'll also put a link in the description for our video on why new vegans feel so much better at first and then so much worse later. And there may be some important insights in for you to gain in that video as well. Now, if you live in a town where maybe, free-range grass-fed meats are hard to come by, we'll put a link in the description for some places where you can order it online. They have people that'll ship it right to your house now, so we don't have to view that as a barrier like we did a while ago. The most important thing to understand is that if you eat the right meat and you're breaking it down correctly, meat can be very healthy. It can be very beneficial and bring a lot of benefits. You don't have to have this fear that the media has created. So if you're dealing with any digestive symptoms now, go ahead and watch our video on understanding digestive symptoms to gain more insights into steps you can take now to correct those issues. I can't wait to hear about your results.